Hello, everyone, and welcome to this latest live episode of Vox Vomitus. I am your host, Jennifer Ann Gordon, the author of Pretty Ugly, The Japanese Box and Other Stories, the hotel series, and at some point, someday, in bookstores everywhere, Perfect Lives, Perfect Lies. Not until like 2027. Still don't have a date, but I'm just going to keep mentioning it because it's, percolating out there. Joining me today, as always, is my co-hostess with the mostest, my Vox Vomitus vixen, Allison Martine, the author of the Bourbon books, of which there are too many to name.
Yeah, so there's like five.
Thank you. There's five. There's five. I was testing my asthma weekly, but now that the show's every other week, I don't do enough cardio to say all of the titles all at once. And I have to save my breath to introduce our guest today. It is his first time on Vox Vomitus. He is a friend of mine, so I'm very excited. He's soon to be a friend of Allison's. Here to talk about Bigfoot sightings, true tales from across America, is Michael A. Kozlowski. Ooh, ooh. So for people watching this live, you'll see that Allison and I are like bundled up in sweaters. We wanted to cosplay as people in the woods looking for a Bigfoots.
Oh wait, was that the assignment? Because I came as a Bigfoot.
Oh,
like look at my colors. I'm Sasquatching.
Oh, I'm a tree.
I'm like fall color Sasquatching, and look how much hair I have.
Well, look at this.
Oh, you have more than me. A lot. It's like floofy today.
I'm full dog man of Florida.
Florida. Okay, we will try to not pass out from the heat because it is not exactly Northwest Pacific weather here in my kitchen. In Southern California, it's actually stupid hot again because that's just what we get around here. But Mike, where are you? You're not dealing with hot.
I'm in Detroit.
Pacific weather, are you?
No heat wave. Yeah, Detroit, Michigan. It's coolish, but not too bad.
Detroit is one of my favorite places. I fell in love with that city.
Probably not a lot of Sasquatches.
Not a lot of Sasquatches.
Not in Detroit.
Right in Detroit, but
not Detroit proper.
Surrounding areas.
Walk in the street.
So, Mike, thank you so much for being here with us. Before we get started in our big serious questions about this book, of which we have not a lot of serious questions, but probably a lot of
copies.
But a lot of I know. But,
Allison lost her book, and Allison bought another book.
Allison's now a Bigfoot
We'll be hosting a giveaway later for anyone who wants to read about Bigfoot. And I'm honestly, Mike, Jennifer thought she would have to talk me into this, and I'm like, Bigfoot, I'm sold, and I have just loved reading it. And I don't actually. I think she knew because I don't read a lot of nonfiction books that aren't just stories. Sure. This has the kind of information that I lose myself in. This is like a whole book of rabbit holes condensed in one useful little surface here that I can take with me, because this is the stuff I Google because I love cryptozoology and all of this stuff, and I was here for all of it.
And I didn't know that. So, Mike, before we dive into the Bigfoots, the big feats, we've had this conversation before. I'm going to call them the wrong thing no matter what. Tell us about you. And then a little bit about this like incredible project, because you are a co-writer on this, Jim Willis, and we'll obviously talk about that. Is your other co-writer?
So background, I'm more of a fiction writer, or had been more of a fiction writer. I have a couple novels out there. You can find them on my website. I won't get too deep into that just yet, but that's kind of the first love. I was actually pitching. Yes, there goes scrolling. I was actually pitching to a local publisher a different novel I was working on based on the ghost story, and was telling him the ghost story itself as kind of a setup. And he's like, I don't really do fiction stuff. It's like, but can you tell like 50 more of those stories or so? Like, well, I don't know 50 more of those stories yet, but I can certainly get to work on it.
You did what all writers do when you're like getting proposed work. You're like, yeah, I can do that.
Absolutely.
I will do whatever.
So that became American Ghost Stories. 1 second.
Which I also have, but not with me, next to me.
American Ghost Stories. So true tales from all 50 states. So that's there's a ghost story from every one of the states that I picked out of many, many, many. So some are well known, some are less so, whatever. So I did that. It went over really well. They loved the book. It sold well for them. So they asked if I'd be interested in doing another. And I'm actually working on that second book now, because in the meantime, while I was working on that, I got a call about the Bigfoot book. which we had discussed some Bigfoot stuff and possibly doing a Bigfoot book. But another author that the publisher worked with was doing one, Jim Willis, who's has been much more prolific than I. There's probably 20 some books out there right now. But he had unfortunately passed away rather suddenly. Wanted to see the book finished. His family wanted to see the book finished. He had kind of a rough draft done, some whole sections, like, whole chapters, and then some that he just had like a title. And that was about it. But you could definitely see where things were going. So I would say roughly 50% finished, and had some notes and whatnot. So I went through that. It was really, we write in a similar fashion, I think. So it wasn't hard to see where I could make that work. And that's how I got signed on. So his family, kind of approved of the where we were going to go with it and how I was going to finish it. And I think it came out pretty good. For the most part, I don't think you can tell who's writing what unless it's spelled out in the book, which there are some cases where it's specific.
There are very certain moments where we come across and I'm in Detroit, and as a lifelong Lions fan, and then like there's a photo of you in the book that your fiance took. So I'm like, there are certain moments that I was like, well, that's Mike, 1,000,000%. But were you interested in Bigfoot before this? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Are we not supposed to talk about that?
Oh, we can absolutely talk about that. So in all my kind of supernatural genre books now that I'm getting into, and again, fairly new, I'm probably, 5-ish years since I started the American Ghost Stories book. Maybe not even that long, maybe 3 or 4. And then I'm working on the second book is more of a broad paranormal, supernatural, unexplained book. So it'll be, discussing cryptids again. We'll be talking ghosts, but there's also UFOs and
Bermuda Triangle.
There's geographical anomalies, the whole shebang.
Spontaneous combustion.
Maybe.
That one scares me. I don't want to burn up.
There's mentalists and, psychics and all that good stuff. I did some trips down to Florida for that. And, all
They're all in Florida.
They're all in Florida. Well, it's just not true. I worked for a fake psychic in New England for a little while who was in the more mentalist.
Yeah. So with all of them, I consider myself an optimistic skeptic. So I don't think there's any that I'm over the 50% mark on. I believe it. And with Bigfoot, I would probably said I was more around the 10 to 20%, maybe, I guess, when I was starting the book. I don't know about existing currently, but having existed, I'm much more closer to that 50% now that I finished the book. That's just based on research and a lot of the, anthropology and fossil records and that sort of stuff that, makes it a lot more believable that if they don't exist now, they certainly could have. Right?
Did.
And I also love, you made a point, or somebody made a point, the book made a point, that you talk about there are tribes of people that exist on this planet that people have never laid eyes on, like scientists have never laid eyes on, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. They very much do exist. And once I got to that part, I took a little break from physically reading, and then I went down the rabbit hole. So I'm just going to say this book took so much longer to read than a normal book because I looked up every video, every weird thing. I'm like, I had my phone, I had my laptop out, I had the book open.
We slammed a lot of information in there.
You did. And I will say there were things that, I mean, I avoided what Jennifer did, at least as to looking up the videos, because I knew I would never come back from that. I knew that was the point of no return for me. And I knew, but what I was doing is I was learning a lot from this. And I think the thing is places like Discovery Channel and History Channel and stuff have just become ancient aliens to the point where I don't really watch them anymore, but I used to. And I loved hearing about some of these things and things that we were taught in school that, because we're old, have already been disproved since we were taught them. Right. So, because we're old. But things like you talk about certain earlier tribes who came over, or different earlier ancestors, or the fact that what we were taught in school as the oldest historical site isn't still the oldest historical site, because there was another one that had been kind of found, but no one really paid attention to it. And it's in Turkey, and I cannot pronounce it. But I was so fascinated by all that stuff. So it's one of those things where even if you are like Bigfoot, there's so much else in here that is only tangentially tangentially Bigfoot. It's more about how we learn as a society and what becomes the accepted. Like science says, well, what does science say? Because that's always changing. And I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, I argued a little bit with my publisher on the subtitle. Don't tell him that if he's not listening. Just because it is
what did
True
you want to
Tales,
call it?
you know, something just a little broader. Maybe
Yeah,
not
because it's like
America,
True Tales from across America, but
yeah,
there was so much more in this
it
book.
had just been True Tales
Also
from
Canada.
around the world, really.
Also Canada.
You know, because we touch on, I think, every continent pretty much, you know, and go back into the, you know, fossil record all the way back to, you know, the crescent and all that, and, you know, follow that migration across the Bering Strait.
Oh, the migration patterns.
Yes.
Man, there's whole TikToks around this.
Well,
which I didn't know existed.
Like, again, things that I only learned more recently about how, depending on what your own ethnic background, whether or not you were likely to have Neanderthal or Neanderthal, I'm not going to get into how to pronounce it, DNA. And I am a parent of children who are autistic, and how there is a correlation between those two, or at least it's been shown. It's not been proven. There's like a correlation, not so a causation, that people from that's like, so what you're telling me is the Neanderthal were smarter than us, better than us, but we killed them into existence, but also bred with them. Sounds good. Like that seems like the most American thing to do ever. we killed them off and interbred with them. All right.
Yeah.
But that other people from other areas have Denisovian, am I saying that right? Yeah, that's a different group, so that it's not even like, I think we were all taught one common ancestor, and from some part perhaps, but we also have different ancestors that got in there along the way. And anybody who's watching it going, 7 days, Allison, this is not creationist, you stop that. I am never going to stop being interested in human anthropology and development, and wondering, like, I want to know what I have and how that reaches back, because I'm pretty sure I got some Neanderthal in me, and I'm proud of that.
Heavy brow ridge.
Right here, it's like that part probably not showing so much. Yeah.
I think most people tend to just believe you have, you know, humans and apes, and somewhere they believe they had a common ancestor, unless you're on the 7-day creation sort of theory. But I think, you know, most people even are rolling that into their 7-day, right? But we miss a whole lot of other branches along the way, whether it's, you know, whether they existed or died out, or we bred them out, you know, Denisovans or Neanderthals, or, you know, any of them. You know, there's some that are hundreds of thousands of years before, you know, we have records of us being over in North America, for instance. And it's like, well, if we weren't here, who had these tools? Who was using them? You know?
Exactly. It wasn't just like a big empty land with, like, I mean, it's just, so was there anything that, like, that you specifically, like, I'm assuming that researching these books is all just going down rabbit holes, but was there anything that, like, you specifically gelled onto and then were like, how do I make sure this ends up in the book? Or was it like too off the wall? Was it the women that mated with these people?
Right.
Was it that?
I don't think there was anything that really was too off the wall for me. I mean, some of the more modern stuff, some of the, you know, like you're saying, Discovery Channel kind of things that they throw out there. It's like, I can only take so much of those.
The guy with the really curly hair who's always like, alien. Every time. Aliens with aliens.
Yes. Like, and there's Bigfoot. They've got aliens involved with Bigfoot now, and
I know, and the Bigfoot
interdimensional things and all that.
And like they're invisible sometimes.
Yeah, and they're interdimensional, and you know.
No, that's all Harry Potter to me, because he's got the cloak of invisibility, and everything's explained by Nargles did it. So I think that guy also explains.
Yeah, I don't like layering more problems on top of problems. You know, it's like just Bigfoot's enough by itself. I don't think we need to make an alien or interdimensional, because there's not really any proof for those things.
Because aliens can't have done everything. They can't do the pyramids and Bigfoot and be in space and be ET and be like hot people on DS9. Like it can't be all of those. I don't think they would have time for Bigfoot.
Yeah, and it's they tend to be like more
interest
excuses. Those theories to me, you know, with an organic creature, you have, you know, footprints, you have, you know, this different bit of evidence that people, you know, accurate or not, that they have when it comes to like aliens and interdimensional, it's usually like, well, we can't find a body because this, or it disappeared. I didn't see it because this. It's like, well, you're not giving me any proof of them being interdimensional or alien. You're just making a reason for why you can't answer a question.
Yes.
Like, what if Bigfoot are actually the strongest swimmers on this planet, and they swim out from the depths of the sea, live for a little while, and then swim back down to die? Right?
They're Atlantans. They are Aquaman. They're the Little Mermaid.
Aquaman.
They live under the ocean. And
Ursula was a shapeshifter. If we're going to be factual.
We're going back to further back. Well, and I mean, that's kind of like, what is it, like the coherent one theory of everything? So that's how you wrap all of these things: Atlanteans and Bigfoot and Little Mermaid. I don't think we need that cohesive a theory, honestly. I think it's okay. But I do really like the stuff that gets into, like, I love zoology. If I had math skills, which I don't, I would have totally wanted to be a biologist. I also was told on an expedition that I talk too much and scare away the monkeys. So, I mean, I couldn't do it.
This is why
there
are no Bigfoot in your neighborhood, Allison.
Also, I live like right by the freeway. Do you? I mean, I don't live in LA. I live in Orange County. I live right by, like, my cul-de-sac dead ends on a freeway. Not great Bigfoot territory, honestly. Really, we have had mountain lions get near us, and we're like, where did you get over here from? But we need to take you back now, Mr. Mountain Lion. You don't belong in that guy's yard. But I love the idea of them being related to other big apes, and understanding that how even, I mean, I remember learning about bonobos because I didn't know about bonobos when I was younger, and I'm like, how come they're hiding these bonobos from me? Where did these come from? And they were just called something else.
From you specifically.
Me specifically, because they knew I was looking for them. But then they were called pygmy chimpanzees, and their taxonomy was changed, but that we didn't know that they were separate species. But I've always been someone who's going, how come certain continents got large apes and we didn't? And I feel personally affronted that North America didn't get a large ape. And to me, that explains where they went. They're Bigfoot.
Could be. And I think there's just not very many of them. You know, people think there's, you should be running one into one every time you go into the woods. I
went camping and here he was.
Yeah, exactly. They were right there. And it's like, I feel like I was in my 40s before I ever saw a fox just out in the wild. And I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm a hunter. I'm in the woods regularly, and I don't see, foxes run. I think I've seen half a dozen in my lifetime, and we have them all over by us,
Exactly.
They don't care to be near us.
In New Hampshire, and I am of a certain age, and I saw my first moose 2 years ago, and it was in my yard.
I've never
there was a moose in your? Did you tell me
it
this?
was actually
I feel like you had to have told me that.
It was two
meese.
I don't know. I'm not science.
Still moose.
But it was early in the morning, and I was making my coffee, and I looked out the window, and my first thought was, God, that horse is huge. And then I was like,
and ugly.
That's not a horse. Oh my gosh.
They're so big.
They're so huge and like otherworldly. And I'm like, and I live in like moose territory. There's signs everywhere in New Hampshire, especially where I live, like moose crossing, beware of moose, 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 moose. And I just saw one briefly. And even then, if this was the olden days and I had to describe that to somebody, I too would have described it as a horse that was larger than life. Right. Its knees were at my eye level, and it wouldn't have made sense. So that's what makes Bigfoot make sense to me.
Yeah. And I think there's, there's a theory called minimum population viability, which says anywhere from like 50 to 500 distinct individuals can keep a species going, has enough diversity and whatnot, so that the interbreeding isn't a problem, and we're applying our own biologies to these creatures that we don't know about. They might not have an issue interbreeding for that matter, but even if they did,
they might like it.
They might not do them any harm whatsoever.
I say things like this specifically for poor Allison.
Right. So, I like my sister. Shut up. No idea. But if you even said like you went to the 500 range, my theory, if they exist, is that they're fairly solitary. Maybe they come together, for mating, maybe for a short time to help raise the young. Some people claim to see, family units here and there, including Vladimir Putin. So he saw 300.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard at that part.
I laughed
was
so hard. I'm
wait,
like,
wait.
is this my
Are we
favorite
using
part?
him? Is this supposed to be bolstering the credibility?
I loved it. I think I said
know.
something along the lines that even everybody that was with him totally backed up his story. Like,
Of course he did, because he's
I'll believe
like,
him. Of course.
I will poison you if you don't back
will
up.
fall out of
my-"
a
We all
tall
saw
window.
whatever you said.
Yeah. See that tall building with the open windows?
Yeah, I bet you could see the Bigfoot from there.
Right.
Walk on up.
See.
I'm sure you'll see it. I do. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
So I
I'll see it from way back here. Thank you.
But I think they're generally solitary. And if there was 500 of them, you know, even covering just the Pacific Northwest, you know, how likely would you be to run into one? You know, and people that go looking for them, before we aired, we talked about the 4 horsemen of Saskatchewan, who were 4 very, very dedicated researchers for Bigfoot from, you know, for 50 years, you know, most of their lives. Not one of them ever claimed to actually see a Bigfoot, you know, that evidence of, you know, footprints and structures and all this other stuff, but
Sounds.
actually, yeah, and sounds and
Sounds kind of freak me out.
and whistles and all that good stuff, but you know, had never seen one. And almost always when somebody has a Bigfoot encounter, it's by accident, right? Like you're just out camping or something like that and happen to run into one, or you know, one comes close to civilization for whatever reason, maybe you know, scavenging or something like that, who knows. But yeah, I think if you go looking for them, it's pretty hard to find them. Speaking of sounds, I have another theory about that too.
Oh, tell us.
Yeah, because there's like, I forget the guy's name now. It's in the book, but he like coded the whole like language of Bigfoot.
Yes,
right?
the language phenoms. I'm like, how do you even do that?
Right. So he's got this whole thing, and this is what each noise means and whatever, which, you know, I don't know that I adhere to that. But, you know, most people go out there and they make, you know, I'm going to whistle and I'm going to make these howling sounds and I'm going to do whatever. And what are you doing? Well, I'm calling Bigfoot. You don't know what you're saying. You know, you have no idea.
What if you're saying like, hey, fuck you?
Yeah, exactly. You could be swearing at him. You could be, you know, probably just gibberish. Like if I was standing in the middle of China and like screaming things out that sounded Chinese, people would just avoid me.
They'd be like,
who
is that racist?
Yeah, who's that
Exactly.
But, you know, so I feel like that's probably not the way to call Bigfoot in.
I know. The Bigfoots are probably like, I'm embarrassed for you. Also, that's insulting to my family.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah. I know.
Well, and also,
what did I ever do to you?
I mean, if you go back to the idea that these are people or creatures who at once lived closer to us and then learned to keep their distance, because especially the white folk and what we do when we encounter things is kill them all, that it makes sense that they would learn to avoid us as best as possible. Like, right. It makes sense that anybody coming across us should be like, I'm just going to go back to that cave that they're not going to find until they are gone. And you can hear them making their noises and trying to call me. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the wrong number. I would not like to come out right now.
Well, one of the earliest North American experiences, Bigfoot experiences, stories was in Ape Canyon in Washington, like 1924, I think it was. And it was miners or loggers, you know, run into a group of these ape-like creatures. The first thing they did was shoot them.
Right.
So then the experience then became that the Bigfoot came back later and they attacked the cabin and they pounded doors and they threw boulders. And the next day they went out and they saw these big footprints around and whatnot. And that was the first sort of, you know, we encountered this huge ape-like creature in North America.
And we tried to kill it.
But first thing we did was shoot it.
Yep. Well, and one of the things,
why do they hide from us?
Yeah, especially say, well, we haven't found a body, we haven't found remains. It's like if I were part of a group of very few but intelligent, like we're assuming most of these things we're seeing seems they're of intelligence similar to ours, maybe not having necessarily the same language capabilities, but who knows, that if they knew people, if they proved that they existed, would do more to come after them, they would make sure they don't leave their dead lying around. Whatever they do with it, whether it's they burn it, bury it deep, have it some, you know, do some kind of ritual cannibalism, not trying to get gross, but do something to make sure that
we've
they
already
don't
implied that they
anything.
might be incestuous. So the cannibalism, I think, is just not gonna.
We're already giving them a pretty bad rap.
I know. We're just like hairy sex with their sisters.
We're trying to be. What did the Bumble ever do to you? Bumble being more of a Yeti. And I was reading select portions to my husband because I do think my favorite vignette that I've come across so far. I won't spoil the vignette for people who haven't read it, but the one involving Jimmy Stewart, because that's just like. what the actual?
Out of nowhere, Jimmy Stewart pops into play.
I know. It's like, I didn't think that Jimmy Stewart was going to be like a Bigfoot power player.
I didn't know, but I told him after this happened, and I don't know what the statute of limitations is for Brazil, but I smuggled some samples out of Brazil when I was down there on a wildlife expedition. Brazilian people, please don't come after me, because I was studying peccaries, and I knew I was not allowed to take the hairs and the bones with me across country lines. And I did it anyway. I was underage, so that was probably fine. And I took a work glove, wrapped it, put it inside a plastic bottle, and it got through customs. And I was like sweating more than I am now when I was going through customs, because they didn't open it. That anything to declare? Nope. And then through I went, and I now have like
certainly not animal waste,
a peccary bone, and I don't remember where we got the bone, but the hairs were from the peccary that we had actually captured and collared. And we were there looking for the animals, and we had a collar on one of them, and it was still really, 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 really hard to find them. And they were in a limited territory, and they're only pigs. They're not like super smart. So from that, I'm just like, it's not that hard to avoid us, because anything else we're looking for isn't actively trying to avoid us the same way a smart person would, you know what I mean? As opposed to like, okay, the cougars generally try not to come out unless they're at bars looking for younger guys. Generally, they're trying to not be out. Yeah,
that's me.
Both of us are cougars. Our husbands are younger than we are, but it's fine.
We both are. I mean,
I'm a mini cougar. I'm not that much older.
Yeah. Even like, so I'm a dog person. Mike, I know you're a dog person. Dogs, when they're sick, dogs, when they, are about to pass away, don't want to be around anyone. They hide. It's like,
so do cats.
So do cats. Like, we expect this. It's very well known in nature. We have experience with this. The fact that like people fight the idea that if a Bigfoot was very old, knew it was dying, it wouldn't just be like, well, I'm just going to sit here next to the highway.
Right.
I'm going to go down to the 7-Eleven.
Yeah. So they can
have intelligence. They probably, there's no reason to believe they don't have some sort of burial rituals. There's some belief that they bury underneath logs and stuff, so that, nature just kind of takes its toll a little quicker, just like, burying in a grave. Again, as a hunter, I can tell you, I could count on one hand probably how many deer carcasses I've run into in the woods, that are just, and there's usually not much left of them when I find them. And, within a year that's gone.
Right. And there's certainly more than 50 to 500 deer in the location.
I see that many in a day.
Yeah, I see deer carcasses. When I've seen deer carcasses, it's been visiting Pennsylvania, and apparently they are really bad at crossing highways the same way possums are out here. Not so good at getting across the highway. It makes me very sad.
Yeah. Bigfoot's apparently better at managing highways.
Oh, yeah. I think they understand it a little more. Do you have a favorite, like, Bigfoot tale? Like a version
of a sighting, or?
Oh, just like I don't want to be like a breed, or like, because there's like the dog man, there's blah blah blah, there's
like Kootenai versus
Sasquatch.
Not the term for Saskatchewan, as you pointed out.
I think they're all related. Around the world, I think they're related. Whether it's the Yowie in Australia, or
what about that one-footed one?
The what?
Not that one. No.
I know.
That one I don't think that was part of it.
I know.
The thing that was like in mythology that you said, or this guy has just 1 foot and he shows up, and that kind of convolutes a lot of this stuff.
I know. I was just like,
could
that be a Bigfoot?
Like, this guy, I don't know if people can see that.
I love
but
that
this
you knew
picture
what
is
page
like,
it was on. Oh, this one?
I didn't. I had to find it, but this picture's not hard to find because it's kind of just wrong in every way.
It was my favorite.
In the air, I'm just like, what?
It's one Bigfoot. It's a hopper. Hopper. I mean, my thoughts of what Bigfoot is an organic creature that's, somewhere between smarter than the great apes that we know, maybe not as intelligent as us, but pretty close.
Or smarter.
I think around
probably more intelligently, like emotionally smarter than us.
They're probably emotionally smarter than us.
Better survival instincts, because we have the Darwin Award.
It's true. And they, haven't gone into, as best as we know, any sort of geopolitical things that, ruin everything. So that's good.
Good choice.
I know. I was just supposed to be like, they didn't vote for, I'm not going to say it, but
yeah, we're disenfranchised, Jennifer. Don't rub it
in. But I think they're all probably related. I think, environment can definitely impact, whether they're brown or white or, black or whatever.
We've never seen that before.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like polar bears versus black bears versus brown bears. There's no reason that,
Look, there's a whole section. There's a section in a book that will probably never be published that's about the Pizzly bear, because the Pizzlies I adore them. And it's for people who are like, what the hell are you talking about? It's the combo of a polar bear and a grizzly that shouldn't interbreed, but they can, and they do. But whether the offspring is sterile, no one's quite sure. But it's like, you want a weird looking golden bear that isn't really sure where it belongs. There's your Pizzly for you.
The most dangerous bear in the world.
Probably. And it's mad because it's like, what the hell am I? It's got an identity crisis. Vince is popping in to show my support for my friend and fellow Michigander.
Hi, Vince.
Vince.
We love you, Vince.
We'll need to have you weigh in on where you stand on the Bigfoot epidemic. I mean, pandemic. No, just Bigfoot, whether they exist, but the Bigfoot polemic and whether they exist. And I love the idea of them being related to certain big apes and looking at it makes me sad, but this is also because I've watched way too many of the Planet of the Apes movies, although I haven't watched the newest one that came out because I got bored. That the orangutan seems to be the most gentle of the larger apes, and they're a different breed. And some of this was positing that they're of the same genus as, or same larger species as orangutan versus the gorilla or the chimps, which especially chimps can be real jerks, like people ripping faces off. Like if I'm going to run into any of the larger apes in the wild, I want it to be an orangutan because I'm most likely to survive that encounter, even though generally I know gorillas can be gentle. But again, I wouldn't want to be like, hi, silverback, let's high five. That's a poor choice on my part. Again, no survival instincts here. So, but I love that. And especially that explains some of the red hair, because the orangutans are red. And also I want to protect the orangutans and say no palm oil or only sustainably sourced, because that's what's
and the farther you get back into the stories of Bigfoot or similar creatures into folklore and whatnot, a lot of those are probably misidentified, bears standing on their hind legs or orangutans. If you imagine being the first person who saw an orangutan, you'd be like, yeah, it's like this hairy person.
Didn't they call him like Borneo man or like man of the forest? Because they look like people. And I've had a book, I don't know what happened to it, but it had just gorgeous photos of wildlife from all over. And all of the photos of any kind of primate up close, you look at these eyes and you go, don't tell me that's not a person. Don't tell me that's just not a person, because they just look like people again. It's just like, okay, well, maybe they've got a little bit more hair, but I've met some pretty hairy guys. Like every time Joe takes off his shirt and he has chest hair way up to here. I don't even know what that's about, but he does. And so maybe he's got a little bit more primate than some other people do.
Our DNA, compared to primates is, nearly identical.
So close.
Yeah, it's not that different. How long does it take you to research one of these books? Does the research is it constant while you're writing, or do you ever get to the point where you're like, I'm done my research, I have to write?
Enough.
That's
enough.
Constant.
I can't know anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty constant. With the fiction, I'm much more of a pantser.
I was going to be like, how does this?
Even though I enjoy the research, with the fiction stuff, it's usually like, I just said that, and how unbelievable is that? I better go check. That's about kind of my research for fiction. But with these, obviously, heavy research. So I spend a lot of time up front, probably, I would say weeks, researching just to kind of figure out the outline and where I'm going. Which is apt to change even as I go. And then, it's pretty much constant research as I'm writing as well. So, I've got 3 screens going, and, I'm writing on one, and I've got, the internet up on this one, and, and it's really just going down rabbit holes over and over again. And I like to make sure I'm being as accurate as possible. So, that first bit of research, I want to find some more sources that, make sense. And, it's extensive. It probably takes one of these books, if I'm able to work fairly steadily on it, I probably put about a year into it, because I have to, there's times where I have to just stop for a while because you get burnt out and, need a minute. But I try to sit down and write every night. Doesn't always happen. But.
Did you ever go to a Bigfoot convention while you were researching this
I
book?
did not.
But you're so close to Ohio.
I know. And there's some
Is there
that
one
I
there? Is that one of the big ones?
Yeah.
Have you gone, Jennifer?
A couple cents.
No, and I'm really upset that I didn't go to one when I lived there.
Yeah, I'll probably get to a few now. Since the book came out, I get a lot more.
Oh, yeah, because now you could be like,
yeah, now
like
I'm sitting on the panel.
Yeah, exactly.
As one of the reigning Bigfoot experts.
Right.
I need to
get to a few. I've been invited out to do some squatching. I haven't done any really serious squatching. I've been in areas where Bigfoot's been sighted, and you kind of walk around through the woods and see what you see, but nothing really serious, staying out overnight or whatever. But I've been invited to do a couple of those not too far from home, so hopefully get into that maybe next spring and try a few of those and see what happens. But maybe I'll become a little bit more of a believer. We'll see.
My gosh, I love it. So you're hard at work on a book now. Yes. Does that have a release date?
It does not yet. Probably it's got delayed a little bit with some personal things, but probably looking at next fall, end of 2026, somewhere around. Is that one we're aiming for? So we'll see.
Is that a fiction or is that another one in?
It's another paranormal, unexplained. Yeah, it's the one that I kind of cut off to take over the Bigfoot books. So
got it.
A little bit of everything, sort of just unexplained across the the title.
I love it, and I feel
lots of stories. But
we are of a certain age that grew up on like Unsolved Mysteries,
right.
And
Ripley's
all
Believe
of
It or Not.
Ripley's Believe It or Not, or those Time Life books that were just.
That's what I was going to say. My sister and I'll have to ask my sister. There was a book that she used to, I think, intentionally torment me with because it used to freak me out. That it was all these unexplained phenomena, and like the worst. It did have stuff on Bigfoot, which I thought was cool, but it had some things that were genuinely messed up, like places where after somebody had died, faces appearing in tiles, and they'd like take pictures of it. And I'm like, oh no, that's freaking me out. And I was maybe 7 or 8, and my sister's like, yes, now listen, let's leave it open to that page just so you can see it again, because this is the kind of sister I have. Jennifer, you understand. But that's I know. She's like, yes, I would have done that to you too. But those are the kind of things. And I feel like Time Life doesn't really do those anymore. And so much of it has been taken over by the internet. And on one hand, I love the internet for being able to have instant access to all those rabbit holes and click on all the videos that I haven't gone to yet. Jennifer already did. But it doesn't still have that same feel of something that's cohesive like this, that put it all together and lets you read through it and go, okay, why do people think this? And what's the historical evidence? And what is the establishment's pushback to it? Because that's part of what's really fascinating about a lot of this is like, how many samples? Oh, sorry, the sample we were supposed to get got lost in the mail. Guess we didn't test it. Or maybe it's been contaminated. That it feels like there's a genuine, we don't want to look at this carefully. And because we don't look at it carefully, then we can't prove it. And since it hasn't been proven, we aren't going to take you seriously. So it's this ridiculous cycle of, well, we're never going to prove it because no one who has any kind of actual gravitas is willing to look into it. Because if you do, then you're a kook.
Yeah, for sure. Like Grover Krantz, Washington State University, respected professor in pathology, all kinds of things, right? That was one of the four horsemen of the Sasquatchery, right? He was the academic, and put his name out there, but ridiculed for anything Bigfoot. His other stuff wasn't. His other stuff was he's a great professor.
But he's a quack. Like
he's definitely a quack.
And then Jeff Moldrum would have been the next, who really he just passed away a few weeks ago. So, but another professor, one of the few academics who you would see on every Bigfoot show and whatever. Tons of evidence with footprints and hair samples and things like that. I think it was Krantz that sent in the sample to the FBI, who didn't find it or whatever, and then he called them back years later, and they're like, oh yeah, we just forgot to send that back out to you. It was deer hair or whatever, but
it was totally deer hair.
So
deer hair. Deer hair, but, sure.
Very few real efforts being made to research the stuff, right, with any sort of scientific evidence and
and respect. Oh, it's sad. This was so much fun. I didn't know how I felt about Bigfoot going into this. I still don't know. I still don't know. I can't say
I
they
wrote
don't.
it and I still don't know.
Yeah, I can't say they don't exist. But it was like just such a fun read. So thank you for getting this torch and finishing this book.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
It's amazing. I haven't read the ghost one yet, but ghosts are kind of my jam. So like that, I really do want to.
That's a fun one. That's very specific to there's a story in this state, and it's why is there a haunting? What's the backstory, right? What's the history of the haunting? What's happening now or has happened that make people think this is hauntings going on? Kind of what's the evidence? I enjoyed that one a lot. I got to go around.
That sounds like so much fun.
Visit a few places and do some
field trip.
I know. It just seems like this is like the great basis for a road trip like that. Would be incredible. Mike, thanks for being here. Thanks for being only our second nonfiction book in 5 years.
We very rarely make an exception. We make one for Bigfoot.
We made one for Bigfoot, yeah, for sure. So yeah, thank you. Everybody who is watching this live or watching the replay or just weirdly listening to the audio and you can't see our sweaters.
We're sweating for nothing.
We're sweating for nothing. We're sweating for you. Make sure to pick up Bigfoot Sightings, True Tales from across America and beyond. That part's not part of it.
On the next printing.
Yeah. ... and beyond. Everybody join us. We actually have a show next week, 2 weeks in a row, which is rare for us these days. Max Gold is going to be on talking about his latest poetry collection. And then it will be Halloween. And Mike is getting married.
Yes, I am on Halloween. Very excited. It's coming up fast.
Happy nuptials.
Happy nuptials.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's all. That's all we have for now.
All good.
See you next time, everybody.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.